All right, let's now maybe if you can share your screen, maybe in Helium 10 ads, and let's go start going over some of the nitty gritty. We talked a lot about the big picture, things, but let's actually get into it and see what you saw about some instant improvements or things that he can start doing in his account.
Sure. Awesome. So here we are inside David's Helium 10 account. This is the PPC dashboard. And essentially, the thing we're focusing on is understanding, what is the impact that each of these campaigns is driving to the account, and what are the things that we should be fixing as soon as possible to ensure we can improve profitability, and also how the budget is being utilized. So the first thing I usually do when I jump on account is order all my campaigns by spend, because I need to know where most of my money is going. That's going to give me a clear signal in terms of, okay, this money being spent correctly, and if it's not spent correctly, what do I have to do to correct it? And as you guys can see here on the screen, and I'm going to actually increase this so you guys can see the meaning behind each of these campaigns, and then I'm going to open it so you can see more the details. Where David is spending most of the money is on campaigns that have to do essentially with research, because these initial campaigns brought a essential targeting. So it's all about finding new keywords and new phrases, and Auto, as we all know, is also allowing Amazon to advertise on your behalf. And we all know, especially when it comes to giving a money for advertising from a broad perspective or auto perspective, if you don't optimize this soon enough, they can become very expensive very fast. And that usually these campaigns are not meant for what really we need to work on, which is organic ranking. So when I start having a look at here, and you guys can also see here from the metrics perspective, the campaign that's spending the most in this specific scenario, which is the research campaign, which is a broad campaign, is having a very high ACOS. And one of the initial learnings I found as soon as I opened the campaign, which by the way I can show you here, we're inside the research campaign, we can see that one of the first mistakes, which is this is something I would advise nobody to ever do, is putting too many keywords on the same campaign. In fact, when I order by spend, and this is something I invite everybody watching this episode to do at home, if you order by spend, you're going to find that usually most of your spend is going to be concentrated on your top 5 to 10 keywords, because usually what happens is Amazon will prioritize usually the keywords that have historically the best conversion or the highest search volume. So that's why there has to be also a clear segmentation in terms of making sure high search volume keywords are on its own compared to keywords that have a low search volume. So I'm going to make a pause in case there is any questions, I don't know, from David or Bradley regarding this. Yeah.
I notice you have a 1 week look back period. I usually look back longer a little bit. What are the kind of like, there's a reason for everything. Like somebody might want to go and look at a 2-day period, like on Prime Day specifically. What are the different reasons of why you would look at a 1 week versus a 60 days versus a 1 month, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, usually when we have a look at an account, to be honest with you, I like to divide in 3 kind of timelines. The first thing is I want to have a look at what happened last week, because it gives me a very fast kind of overview of what is going on. Then I want to have a look at a month, and then I want to have a look at 3 months. The reason why I want to have a look at these 3 windows is allows me to understand if there is some consistency in the performance in terms of underperformance, or maybe there's some fluctuation that you were very profitable and then the profitability is not happening anymore. And that is going to allow me to essentially create kind of pinpoints throughout the whole timeline to understand where is potentially drop in sales or in profitability or in conversion. And usually if I have a look at the history of the PPC campaign, which you can have a look at the changes and everything, that usually could be correlated to something. You launch a campaign that it started to burn most of your money, or a campaign that's not converting good enough. Or sometimes if you want to even go deeper, which I like to do, I have a look at, have I changed something on my listing, in my title, in my images, my price point? Did I go out of stock? These are things that actually can also influence your PPC. But yeah, usually as a rule of thumb, the actual better view of having a look at really understanding what's going on is usually the last month. That's going to give you the best kind of overview of what recently is being done. And the weekly one is more to understand if there's some recent fluctuations that are happening that we need to be aware of for the future implementation.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then David too, this other thing where he was talking about, hey, this is like, keyword harvesting campaign or broad and auto. there's different targeting types in Amazon advertising. Like if you know there's a good keyword, like hey, people are searching even branded keywords, in motion, hemp, roll on, like that specific term. You want to target that exact term. But then some of those ones that had a little bit of spend there were the research campaign, which is a broad campaign, and an auto campaign. And basically, when you do that, it's like you're saying, all right, I'm targeting for the broad campaign in motion, but then Amazon is going to show you for in motion hemp, in motion roll on, in motion
Mhm.
cream, in motion this, that, and the other thing. All right. So you're discovering new keywords maybe you didn't know are relevant that you'd want to go ahead and put into your manual campaign. And the auto campaign, you're just saying, hey, Amazon, take the wheel, show me for anything out there, and let's find some keywords. And you'll notice there's keywords you're converting for that technically don't even have anything to do with your product. Like one is CBD cream. Your product is obviously not a CBD cream. It doesn't have CBD. You can't even use the keyword
Can't
CBD.
sell it on
Yeah,
Amazon.
can't use
Yeah.
that keyword in your listing. But that doesn't stop
Mhm.
customers from searching it. And
Yeah.
then so if you weren't doing an auto or broad campaign, you never would have shown up for the keyword CBD cream because you're not even indexed
I know I
originally for
can't
that
sell
keyword.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why these are important. Now, something I noticed right off the bat, as soon as you were showing the ad manager there, Vincenzo, I think that we probably would be something he needs to do is in Helium 10 ads, you can see the average budget utilization, and I saw a few of them are at 100%. So if he's got some profitable ones over time, like looking at that 60-day thing, and it's at 100%, wouldn't you say that he's probably leaving money on the table? Because I mean, right now it's only 10 a.m. in Pacific time, and I think I saw one that was already out of budget. So that means he's not even advertising more than half the day, right? Is that what that means?
Yeah, 100%. Like actually, I was gonna show you. I was ordering right now by acres, so everybody could also see on the screen. Like when we have a look at the budget utilization, that's essentially understanding how often the budget is being utilized, right? And you have campaigns where essentially, let's have a look at, for example, these two campaigns, right, where you have a relatively low acres, right, or even this one that also good kind of acres. You can see how the utilization is usually close to 100%, which means some of the campaigns and driving most of the profitability most of the time are already off by now, right? And
Yep.
then in other instances, you have other campaigns like your medium acres campaigns that they are not utilizing the budget as often. Now, this is actually also a red flag because another day when this is also not close to 100%, percentages are very low, that means your bids are not aggressive enough. That
Mm,
means whenever your bid is competitive enough, which usually end up being very late at night or when people are out of budget, you are showing and you're being profitable. But that should also be a signal for you that you should double down on these campaigns, because when you show, you clearly having a better acres campaigns such as this one where
yeah.
that's not the case. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. All right. So there's already something that we can do today where we can easily increase the budget and maybe look at some of the ones that aren't using the budget. Hey, do we need to increase some bids on there? So that's good. What else?
Yeah.
What else did you want to bring out
Yeah.
here?
So another thing I wanted to bring to the conversation as well is when we start having a look as well. For example, one of the campaigns that perform the best starts to point to campaigns that are exact match campaigns, right? And that's the reason why, as soon as I jump on the account and I saw that most of the campaigns were going from a broad match perspective or other perspective, as a red flag, because that means we are not actually getting the search terms that you're converting efficiently and moving them into exact match, right? So there's also a lack of proactiveness there in terms of, okay, broad is clearly identifying some specific search terms, which we can see here. There's some specific search terms that are the one driving the profitable sales. The same happens from an auto perspective. We can go to the search term report and we can see out of all our auto, which is the one actually driving most of the sales. But the goal of that is then to proactively move this into exact match campaigns, because that is going to allow us to do two things. First of all, allocate more budget. But the second thing, which I'm going to go a bit deeper, is also placements. Like for example, some of the things that's not being heavily also tackled across the whole account is placement optimization. You're having very efficient conversion, for example, in some keywords top of the search, which is not the case for other and top of the search. So you need to understand which keywords you can show top of the search, which keywords you have to show for pro details page or rest of the search, and dynamically have the allocation of budget to make sure that you essentially are showing for each specific keyword where you're more likely to convert into a sale. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, excellent.
And now
I
another,
I have a question
yeah,
here.
sure.
A lot of these I can tell by the sales. If you scroll down a little bit,
Yeah.
he only sold one, you know, because his product costs $32, and so it's one conversion. Now I don't know if you're looking at 1 week or
Yeah, we're looking
30 days or
how
whatever it is.
we're looking in this
What
case we're looking
what's
1
your
week.
threshold as far as when you harvest a keyword? Like, do you want as soon as there's one sale, go ahead and put it to the manual campaign? Do you want to wait for
Mhm,
2 sales for a search term before you put it to
mhm.
the manual campaign? Where do you cut it off?
I think a lot of that has also to do with the economics that you allow yourself for customer acquisition, because some brands might afford essentially to allocate more budget to acquire a client compared to us. And what I mean by that is if you allow yourself to spend, in let's put in the example of David, let's say David allow himself to allocate close to $100 for customer acquisition because he really believes not in the first purchase but in the lifetime value. Then
Yeah.
in that case, given that we are really focusing on that longer approach, usually we don't wait that long, because then we can afford the mistake of having the guessing. And even one sell, even if then that allows more clicks that get us to $100, we can afford it because that made us the one sell that might cover the customer acquisition cost. But for most people, that the profitability is not that, it might not be that high, and you need to really be proactive. I would say a good number to take in mind is 3 to 5 sales. 3 to 5 sales is a good number, and then based on how that behaves in terms of if proactively 3 to 5 sales is making me profitable, I will keep it or increase it or decrease it and go from there.
Okay.
Okay,
Another question I had is, I mean, this is probably an auto campaign. I'm
sure.
not sure, but
Yeah, it's
I
another thing.
see some of his own branded keywords in there. When you have exact targeting campaigns, do you think he should have his branded keywords separate than just like maybe the generic ones like hemp pain cream and stuff like that is in one, but then in motion hemp,
Mhm.
should it be segregated like that, or it doesn't matter if it's together?
Yeah, that's actually another thing I saw across the account. On the campaigns that kind of broad phrase and auto, you're having some of the generic keywords coming up from a search term perspective with your branded term, which actually that's very good. That means some people is looking now already for your brand.